Hey everyone, welcome back to Juggling Gym. Today I'm going to give you an update on my unicycling progress. If you haven't seen the first part of the video, you can go check out this vlog here, and I'll just give you a quick recap of what happened in the first part. I made a little bit of progress, and I got a good run of about 4 seconds. I was using a loaned unicycle, and then I ended up moving, and so my plan was to buy a new unicycle, and that's where this vlog is starting. After I moved, I actually didn't end up buying a new unicycle. I met someone at my new juggling club, and she had an extra unicycle. So someone had given it to her to learn, and then she gave it to me to learn. The good news is that with this new unicycle, the seat didn't shift when I moved, which is a problem with my old unicycle. The bad news is that I wasn't suddenly able to unicycle. I was kind of hoping that my only issue was the seat moving, but that wasn't the case. I was able to get one longish run of 3.5 seconds, but it still wasn't better than my personal best, which was 3.8 seconds. So I realized that I needed to start practicing more frequently, and my new goal was to do as many short sessions as possible. The next day, I started unicycling outside of my house because obviously that was more convenient. It was kind of slow going in the beginning. Then I got a pretty long run. You can see here I almost hurt myself, but luckily I was okay. I kept going, and eventually I got my longest run ever, 4.7 seconds. The next day I went out, I got another personal best. The day after that, I got another personal best. So this was pretty exciting, and I was feeling, like I was getting better at unicycling. But the next day I did worse than the previous day, and it was pretty frustrating because I didn't know why I was doing well one day and doing worse the other day. So it's good to know that with unicycling and other things in life, sometimes progress is not always linear. On the 13th day, I got another 7-second run, but I was starting to realize that it was going to be harder and harder to unicycle because the days were getting shorter, and obviously it was dark when I filmed this. The next day, I got another personal best. It wasn't a personal best in distance, but it was a personal best in time. At this point, I was feeling pretty good about unicycling, and I felt like I was making a lot of progress until the next day. On this day, I was pretty tired for some reason. I think I had been working out earlier, but I still wanted to unicycle because it was my new goal to unicycle frequently. So everything was going okay. I wasn't doing great at unicycling this day, maybe because I was tired, but then I hurt my quad. And it doesn't look like much. I was looking at this video and I couldn't tell what went wrong, but I just fell off the unicycle weirdly, and my quad was definitely hurt. I tried to keep unicycling, but my leg was hurting, so I stopped. Fortunately, I didn't hurt my quad too bad, and it healed in about a week. But at this point, I honestly just did not feel like unicycling anymore. Unicycling is really hard, and I think one of the hardest parts about unicycling is there's not a clear way to break down unicycling. So with juggling, you start with one ball, then you go to 2, and then you go to 3. But with unicycling, it just feels like you go on, you fall. You go on, you fall. You go on, you have a longish run, you think you know what you're doing, but then the next run, you actually don't do well at all. My schedule was also getting busier, and I just didn't really feel like unicycling. But I was working on my unicycle skills. I started biking with no hands during my commute. Now, of course, I only did this on places where it was safe to do so. So don't do this in a busy street or something. That's not what I'm saying to do. Biking with no hands is a good way to develop your balance for unicycling, but it's not nearly as scary as actually unicycling. I also should mention that I already knew how to ride a bike with no hands. I learned before the pandemic, but I hadn't done it in a while, so I just wanted to get back into that. So as I was biking around, I had this realization. When I bike with no hands, I start by pedaling, and then eventually I take them off, and then I just continue in the direction the bike was already going. So about 2 months after I had last unicycled, I took my bike out and I was going to try to bike with no hands from a cold start. And it was just really, really, really hard trying to do this without any momentum. So as I kept practicing, I eventually was able to reduce the number of pedals I needed to do before taking my hands off. Honestly, it was pretty scary because I go faster on a bike than I do on a unicycle, so this was the last day that I tried that. At this point, I really did not want to unicycle, but people kept asking about my progress in other videos, so I realized that I needed to unicycle again. My friend raised the seat, as some people suggested, and she also flattened it, so I was cautiously optimistic that I would be able to ride it. Raising the seat definitely did help, but it wasn't like I could unicycle magically at this point. However, I did find that counting helped me keep the right rhythm, and then I got this really nice run. I made it to the end for a total of 3 times, so I decided to move my phone back a little. And again, I made it to the end. New record. I felt like I could still go farther, but I was out of room, so the next day I went to the skate park. At the skate park, I got my longest run ever. I wasn't going in a straight direction, so I decided to try again. Eventually, I got a long run in a straighter direction. At this point, I still wasn't satisfied. I wanted to call this video something like, I learned how to unicycle, but I still didn't feel like this was true. The next day I went to a football stadium because I would have more room to unicycle. This was pretty scary because it was really narrow, and at any given point I was worried that I would fall to either side, but fortunately that did not happen and I'm still a-okay. I'm not recommending that you go and practice at a stadium because it is sort of dangerous, but what I will say is that it really forced me to stay in a straight line. I wasn't making a lot of progress and I felt pretty frustrated. But eventually I realized that I needed to pedal faster to maintain momentum. Sometimes I went too fast and it felt really chaotic, like I was going to fall at any moment. So it was just about, getting the right balance between pedaling fast but not pedaling too fast. Then I got a personal best that I think was better in distance but a little bit shorter in time, and so I wanted to try again to make a personal best in both of those things. I moved my phone back a little and I got a new personal best in distance and in time. At this point, I feel like I can say that I learned how to unicycle. It's not pretty, and I can definitely get better. But I feel like I've really made it past that learning curve, and I'm on my way to really being able to unicycle. Overall, it took me about 9 hours and 52 minutes to learn how to unicycle across 19 different days. I was actually pretty surprised when I added up all the time and I found that it was only about 10 hours. It definitely felt longer when I was learning. In the future, I have 3 unicycling goals. I want to learn how to ride indefinitely. I want to learn how to free mount a unicycle, which is where you get on the unicycle without grabbing onto anything. And of course, I want to learn how to unicycle while juggling. To hold myself accountable, I'm telling y'all now that I'm going to make vlogs for all of those things. I'll see y'all next week with another video. Keep juggling and have fun.